What up, ladies and gentlemen? Here with another awesome interview. One that I've been thinking about for a while, that I've been wanting to do for a while, and that through a DM we got working and we made it happen, which I'm so excited for. Mr. Lucas Abela, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
I'm doing great. My mom has a medical conference that we have to leave for tomorrow. So, packing for that.
A medical conference?
Yeah.
You
I'm not
studying to be a doctor?
Well, she's been a pediatrician for the past, 20 years or something. And I don't know. I guess she's got some, I don't have much information on it except I'll be away for the next couple of days and missing a couple shows, which hurts me, but so is life.
Oh, so I misheard you at first. I thought you were talking about yourself, but is that your mum?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
the the first question I'd like to ask you is for those who don't know, Mr. Abella plays glass essentially and makes these incredible ethereal sounds using microphones and effects and amplification and just everything in general to make a very captivating show for the audience, for people watching at home through YouTube, whatever platform it transfers. And so when you're playing, there are cuts that you make on your face, which adds to the show. But I do have to ask, do you have a harm reduction method to, I guess, prevent some cutting or clean up cutting, or is it just you go with the flow and whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, I don't really have a prevention method. I cut the glass myself, and it's just the raw edge, I suppose, which is sharp, and I'm pursing it against my lip, so I'm gonna get a cut from time to time, but it's not essentially what I'm trying to do. Like I understand it adds to a certain anxiety, I suppose, which is something I enjoy about the glass. Is because I have this when you create anxiety in the audience, there's this tenseness between me and them, that can't be replicated in any other way. So like, well, I don't, I'm not playing it up or cutting myself on purpose. I'm aware there's a danger aspect to what I'm doing, and I think that that heightens the experience to a certain level, but it's not be and all end all the what I'm trying to achieve. I'm not like Gigi Allen or Sid Vicious just cutting myself on purpose. Um, Although like some of the early shows probably people would have probably thought that because they were far more reckless, I guess, my approach at the time. When I was younger. But like I started off as a musician, and like the glass evolved from turntable playing. So I was experimenting with turntables, and I kept breaking the needles. So I started changing the needles into knives and swords and skewers and all sorts of sharp objects, which I'd put into the groove and play. Then eventually I got rid of the turntables and I started using high-powered motors. So I'd use these knives and skewers on these high-powered motors and get this textural percussion stuff. And then one year I got invited for my first tour overseas in was 97, and I went to Japan. And I couldn't take my motors with me because it was just too much to pack. So I went out there and I bought some less, some weaker motors, I guess, than the ones I was using at home, to try and do the same thing. And when I started playing them, the engines were not strong enough to take the friction of the knives on them, so they always stopped when I was trying to play. So out of frustration, I put the objects in my mouth instead and started vocalizing the knives and skewers vocally, and I kind of enjoyed that better. So I started specializing with putting knives and skewers in my mouth to make noises and things. And that eventually evolved into the glass, which in a weird way I see as a giant diamond tip stylus that I manipulate vocally rather than through a groove. Because I'm essentially just vibrating the damn thing. Most people have this perception that I'm screaming into it because the results are so loud, but my actual vocal techniques are quite minimal and more like humming than screaming or that kind of thing. It's more like if I can scream into it and that gives me a certain thing, but I prefer, you know, more control over the more minute vibrations that I'm playing it because it gives me lows and highs and all those different things as I'm trying to play while screaming would just give me I don't know.
And it really is incredible, watching videos. I remember I must have been 10 at the time, and it was the start of COVID. So, we were all on our phones, and I get this video about the title is The Man That Plays Glass. And it was this documentary, 30 minutes long. And I watched all of it, and I was intrigued that, you find these pieces of glass, sometimes in the dumpsters, sometimes wherever, and you cut them to your specification, and then you just the whole process really intrigued me. But the things that intrigued me most were your live show and the sounds. And I love camping. I back then I loved camping even more, and I don't have much time now to do it, but I do as much as I can. And when you're out there, you hear these nightmare noises, and these birds are doing these like psychopath sounds and nightmarish sounds, and you create those so perfectly. And one to one while also doing your own thing. It really is incredible. Now, what I have to ask you as an extension of that would be, there is a rapper turned flute artist named Andre 3000. You may have heard of him. And for his last project, which was a ambient flute record, his live shows have the visual element is a piece of glass on top of a traffic cone, and they shine a light through that, and then it refracts throughout the whole audience and throughout the whole stage, and just creates these flowing elements of whatever while he's doing his thing. Have you ever thought of sending light or projections through your glass to make a visual element to your shows?
Sometimes it happens inadvertently I usually ask for I used to ask for white light pointing up and it would give me a dramatic shadow behind. And sometimes as that goes through the glass can reflect around the room as well. So I've had incidental light shows like that in the past, but it's not something I think about too much. Like these days I've put lights into my modular box because I used to use pedals, but over COVID I transitioned into using modular gear. And I have a not a module, but a thing that takes control voltages from my rig and turns them into light. So I play in a completely dark space now, and then the when I produce sounds, all these different lights come out of my box, so it looks, like anyway. So I have put in a light show element, I guess, into my recent gigs. Um, but didn't really in the past, besides just asking for a white light pointing up at me, which yeah did have an effect at times.
That is very, very cool. Yeah. And I imagine like the white light really elevating, makes you see him just incredible and insane. All the adjectives. I mean, it's just so, so cool. And speaking of the modular system and your effects and whatnot, what are your favorite effects to go through? What are your favorite effects just to use on the daily and through shows and to play around
Um,
with?
my favorite at the moment, the Mungo Dio and Geo by a Victorian manufacturer, which are called Mungo, I guess. Um, And yeah, the Dio's a delay and the Geo's a granular with kind of delay in it as well. And I use those as a pair and I run them through each other to turn my initial signal into a stereo signal. So it kind of splits it up and yeah, it takes my mono and makes it stereo. And I don't know, I just love these two effects together. And I think they're generally my favorite at the moment. But I also run stuff I used to run for a low pass gate, and I get a percussive sound every time I um do a thing, and then I run that through three different types of delays to get these kind of percussive rhythms to because it's all coming. I've got the current live show is six stereo parallel chains, and so they all layer on top of each other. So it sounds like lots of things all happening at once, but it's all coming from the same origin signal. So I've got the glass going through and split into all these different ways and going through the modular system in different ways, then coming back into the mixer. So you get, yeah, it's quite a range of things all happening from the one sound. And while I'm doing that, I also send the signal into a lot of different envelope followers. So my signal is also creating control voltages which sweep a lot of my effects parameters. So not only am I making the sound, my sound is moving my sound. Um, I guess it's why with the modular, so it sounds completely a lot of the times sounds quite unrelated to what I'm doing because I'm making sounds and manipulating sounds with my voice all at the same time. So when the when this glass is going up and down like that, it doesn't sound like I don't know. It's quite confusing audiences. I think when I first moved to Modular, a lot of people thought I was triggering samples or making loops and all these other things that I'm not doing. It's all live and in time improvisation, and I don't have any, there's no synthesis in what I do. I guess there's a lot of people think of modular synthesis as synthesis because it has the word synthesis in it. But modular is just modular. You can put
Yeah.
in effect, you can put in oscillators. So I don't have any oscillators. I don't have any sequences. I don't have any of that stuff that's traditionally within it, like envelope generators. It's all, I create the sound, so I'm the oscillator, and I could create the envelope, so I'm the envelope generator, and I sequence it myself with my mouth. It's all, so yeah, it's mainly just audio effects and envelope followers and frequency trackers that I use, along with mixers and other things like that.
Very, very cool. And speaking of sampling, I would say your sampling work, which has been probably most well known, is with Death Grips. How did you meet Death Grips and kind of stumble into that project? And then with Zach Hill, how did this incredible, weird, uh, bubbly collaboration happen? The 7 inch, right?
Yeah. Well, I first met Zach in 2010 when he was drumming for the Boredoms. Um, I contacted Isham, who was also drumming with the Boredoms, and asked him if he wanted to do some solo shows on the side. And through that, I set up an event with side shows with some of the players, which included Zach. And Zach asked if I wanted to do a duet with him, so I said yeah. And we did a duet back in 2010, and I don't know, became friends, I suppose. Like not too much, but like we communicate and stuff. But then in I think it was 2017, I think it was 2017, I can't remember. I was touring through the US. Um and I wanted to get a show in Sacramento because I was in San Francisco and I had to go, directly east or whatever it is. And so I knew he lived there and I thought, I'll ask him if he knows anything. He said, "Oh, don't bother doing a show here. It's a waste of time. Come record for my band Death Grips." I said, "Sure, yeah, why not?" Um, so yeah, I rocked up to his place and basically just did my set in his studio. I did two runs of my set and then got back on the road and went to do my next show. And yeah, that's how that happened. The 7 inch, I guess, like wanted to, I don't know, I was when I started doing the modular stuff with the envelopes I was explaining earlier. I started thinking about because I'm changing my sound through my vocal performances. I wondered what that would sound like if another musician was changing my vocal performances through their signal. So I thought, who better than Zach or a percussionist? So there would be rhythmic changing of my effects as I was playing. So I contacted him about doing that, and so yeah, his drum sound comes in to my modular rig, and as I'm playing the glass, it's his drumming that's throwing the parameters of the effects all around the place and making, I don't know, my glass sounds amazing through it. It's something I can't do myself because the glass signal and the manipulation of it is in the in the same rhythm as I'm playing. So, but when it's somebody else coming in, it really tears the glass signal apart in a lot of ways, and I really enjoyed that. But that seven was done as sort of a I don't know, proof of concept demo, which we did online. Him passing me stems and me working with the stems and sending them back to him. Um, they're all recorded in real time, but yeah, he sent me stems. I put my stems into a sampler, ran it through my modular effects, and then sent it back to him, and he loved it. We agreed to even use that demo as the 7 inch, but with the idea that we'd do an album later. So last October, we finally got to record together in person um, at a studio in LA, and we did it again. And the results are, oh, to be honest, I haven't listened to them yet because Zach's mixing them down, and I'm trying to hold off on having a listen. Like it's almost been a year now, and every time I write to Zach, he's it's almost ready. It's almost ready. He's like a very meticulous fellow, like a lot more than me. Like I hate post production. I'm not a very big fan of post production. I find it tedious. I don't like listening to things back. I like creating them on the spot. So in a lot of ways, I'm glad that he's so into it and spending so long on I know we recorded for over 2 days, so there's quite a lot of material to go through. So hopefully he says we'll have an album soon. I don't know. We'll wait and see. I'm excited to hear what he did to it, but yeah, I decided not to listen because I just want to hear what he sends me.
Very exciting. Yeah, I know. I improvise with my violin solos whenever I'm soloing at shows, and I absolutely hate having to listen to it back because then all I hear is just, I could have done something more weird. I could have done something more abstract for the audience. I could have done better dynamics. So I love being in the moment and kind of doing it. But post, watching videos of yourself performing, at least for me, it hurts, knowing that, oh, I could have done I could have done a weird chord progression here. It would have done better. It's not for me. But I'm very excited that we have another project coming along because the way you described that sounds very, very cool. And I get that, meticulous hopefully means better, and if you're spending that long on it, I just know it's going to be an absolutely earth-shattering project. It's going to be
Well,
great.
he's definitely spent a lot longer than I spent on the 7 inch. I I mixed them down, I sent them to him, and then he started posting these videos he made on TikTok. So using the audio. So I assumed he liked the material. So I wrote back to him and said, I guess you like it because you're publicly putting them out there. Do you mind if I do a 7 inch rather than because I'm about to go on tour and I'd like to have something to tour with? And obviously our actual session is going to take time. And he said, yeah, he loves the material. Go for your live. Um, so I quickly as I could got down and mastered the damn thing in one day and sent it off to pressing. So it'd be ready in time for the tour, which was when I recorded in October last year. Um, yeah, but yeah, he spent a year with the material, so I spent a day with it. So anyway, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot better than the 7 inch. I just know I know from the actual experience it's gonna be so much better than the 7 inch. It was a really rewarding day, or days, when we recorded. And, I'm very anxious to hear it.
It's the same thing with my interviews. Like, sometimes this takes months and years. There's been one that's been since I started in February. It's been taking quite literally this whole year to um, make, and I edit it and I finish it in a day. Like, I will, as soon as, like, when we're done with this interview, I will tweak it a little bit and be done, and then just wait until I have a time where I don't have any interviews to put out, and I put it out. So it'll take maybe like 15 minutes max. Like, I just want to get it done and out there for the world to see. I don't know why my hand is up. I did not put my hand up. That's so weird. But yeah, it's like the art is very fun to make, but that after process, I just want to get done with as soon as possible. Now, a pretty unrelated question would be, when you're touring and when you're making or hitting places for the first time, have there been venues and specifically like people that have been so shook by our performance that you've ever gotten banned?
Oh yeah. more likely in kind of establishment venues, I'd say. Don't really take to what I do. I got booked to do a tour with a very popular band in Australia called Regurgitator, um, which included a festival called Home Bake, which is a really large outdoor festival of all Australian music. Um, After playing the first couple of shows, the venues started calling each other, and a whole bunch of the venues further down the road all cancelled me and said they didn't want me to play because yeah, they had issues with what I did, I suppose. So I come from a very underground world and more DIY venues and warehouses and that kind of thing. So when that experience where I started playing these larger rock venues, they weren't having it, and I think I still have issues with that. Like I think people misconstrue what I do, or yeah, I feel quite misunderstood in a lot of like it's 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 dangerous, but it's controlled. I've never hurt anybody, and I've never hurt myself beyond cuts on the face. Um, which I guess, yeah, I don't know, like in the rock and roll tradition, it's not a huge thing. Um, and yeah, so if people worrying about me hurting others, or I guess these places just looking after their own interests, I suppose. And I don't know, but yeah, I have had issues, and I suppose I think there was this one time I played at the Melbourne Entertainment Centre. No, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like Melbourne Cultural Centre. It's this big pointy building in Victoria. Um, and I was meant to play there 3 nights in a row. The first night I came out with my normal set of glass, played, smashed the glass over my head, and apparently glass sprayed on the first rows of the audience and stuff. So the next day I show up, and the venue hands me this piece of tempered, really thick glass that's impossible to break. And said, "You have to use this." Um, I know I should have told them to stuff it, but this was kind of a big deal for me at the time. It was earlier on. It was one of the first times I played in a larger established venue. So I went along with it, but I found that the playing through this thing really affected my ability to get the sounds I wanted out of it. And I don't know, they could have just said, "Don't break the glass" at the end of the show, and I would have been happy with that. But I had to play this. I don't know, it was about this thick. It was a ridiculous piece of glass. Um, anyway, I was open for the challenge and did it anyway. But it's weird when you come up with against things like that because I don't know, everyone worries about broken glass, I suppose. Sorry.
No, no, I totally understand. It's it hurts me sometimes when I talk to friends that are so open-minded and they see the music that I'm currently listening to and trash it. And it happened very recently where someone was telling me that my music tasted very weird because they didn't know any of the artists and they heard some screaming and thought that it was very anti-Christ. And that just rubs me the wrong way when you have people that have been very supportive and open-minded. They see one thing that can be misunderstood and they don't understand it properly or have a full grasp at it and they throw it out, considering that these same people are very open-minded towards hundreds of other types of music and genres. It's so annoying. It's very, very annoying. And there's people in my daily life that see the type of interviews I'm making and the type of people I'm talking to and will outright, deny and give me this harsh criticism of you shouldn't be interviewing these people as if I give a shit, first of all, but also isn't the whole point to share our music and share our culture and share our thoughts and beliefs with the rest of the world? That's the whole point of living. That's why we're here
Yeah.
to do one thing and one thing only.
I guess the thing with sound is like people are probably willing to accept abstraction in the visual arts and abstract impressionism, all that kind of thing, which is kind of like well, noise artists are doing is the same, the Jackson Pollock, with the Jackson Pollocks, the sound we take sound, we throw it all around the place. But I know when you upset people's notions of what musicality is or music is, and you go into areas of dissonance and in tonality and all that kind of thing. It's harder for them to accept because you're shaking the air molecules around them, and hearing is such a more sensitive sense than the rest of me. Like you can, like a painting can be on the wall and you can go, oh yeah, but it's when you're actually physically moving the air around a person, it just becomes more, I don't know, like hard to deal with if they're not so in into discordant sound and all that kind of thing. I think it's not really an acquired taste. I think it's just some people are born to like. I've always enjoyed discordant sounds, um, and I know I was naturally attracted to that kind of audio. Um, and I guess you're the same in that sense. So I know it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for
It's
people that don't like it to understand it because I don't know music's. I don't know it's very particular.
I mean, that's what brings me the most pleasure in listening to it, to different types of music, is that I have wholehearted enjoyment in listening and in creating, and it makes me feel whole. And sometimes I just don't really care what, other people think. And it hurts, when people are so dismissive of creativity, especially like you said, when art, in visual arts, it is so represented and cared for and loved in modern days. But if it's a certain sound that that changes your perception, it's shunned, which doesn't make any sense. And I'm hoping as people become more educated on different types of music and through the internet, people will understand that there is beauty in dissonance, whether it's a pop structure and there's a slight minor chord or something that makes the song sad, or if it's something as abstract as your music, it's just different strokes for different folks, as Prince would put it. Of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I have to listen to it, I suppose.
course not. It's I don't know. There's some people I just don't understand at all with their hatred, Uh, but now onto some happy. What are some of your favorite noise rock bands or noise bands in general?
Oh, I guess I don't know. Earlier on, like I love the Boredoms and I love the Ruins and like the I guess the some of that those elements of the Japanese scene really were highly influential for me. I suppose I was very much into the no wave scene coming out of New York as well as other similar scenes in say Victoria. I think a watershed moment for me when when I was about 12, I suppose, there was I was really into In Excess. And Michael Hutchins starred in this film called Dogs in Space.
Uh-huh.
And Dogs in Space is a movie set around the little band scene in Melbourne, which was the Australian version of No Wave in a lot of ways. It was you know you're taking the idea of punk and then transforming it into what punk really should have been, which is not bad rock and roll, but like anyone can make music and you can make music in any way you like. It doesn't have to be drums, guitar, bass, and all that kind of thing. So that's what No Wave was in New York, and that's what the little band scene was in Melbourne. So this film is set there. And so I see this film being an Excess fan and get exposed to this really upped up form of making music and buy the soundtrack and yeah get introduced to things like like the like Suicide and who else is on there Nick Cave and or some of the little bands like Primitive Calculators, Thrushing the Cunts and all sorts of things like Gang of Fours on there. There's all these different things, but so that set me on a strange trajectory. This one LP, um, and yeah, from there I discovered many things. What am I trying to say? Yeah, uh, I think yeah, obviously, yeah. yeah, through the album, yeah, I found out about Nick Cave, which led me on to Einsender Neubauten,
Uh-huh.
which were very influential on me. That the idea that you don't have to have instruments to make music, I guess. So No Wave taught me you could play an instrument any way you like. You didn't have to play chords. You can grind on it with a you can do anything with the instrument. It's going to make sound. And Einsender Neubauten taught me that you didn't have to play instruments at all, and you can use anything to make sound. So they were probably the two biggest things. And then the I like the Japanese flow of dance bands like the Boredoms and the Ruins. I love the fact that their music chopped and changed and went all over the place in short there. They would spend like a few seconds an idea and then we'll go on to something else like that. And I think with my ADHD kind of warped brain. My music's always changing quickly, and something what I think took minutes actually takes seconds, and all that kind of thing. In my warped sense of what's happening in a live performance, I suppose. I guess that's why some of my early shows lasted minutes. Um, and I thought they were. I think my first show was 1 minute 47 seconds or something. When I listened to the recording of it, and I thought it was on there forever.
I know it's with I think the first recital I did with violin, we were in a mall and there were three people and I swear I played a 3 minute song, but it felt like 30. Like it felt like
Hmm.
I was in there forever. And I'm so glad you mentioned the no wave scene in New York because Swans is the band that got me into harsh brash when I heard their first EP and LP. The first thing I thought was this is horrendous. And the more I listened to it, the more incredible and eye-opening it is to see like if you watch the videos of them, Michael Gira has the microphone halfway up his ass, and their bassist is like hitting all the strings at once and just continuously hitting it, and everything is so brash and nihilistic. But I see such beauty in it, and then you see like their later work where they have like the most heavenly sounds ever known. So seeing that it just was really inspiring to me. And fun fact, Swans were the first show I was ever guest listed to this year in
Oh,
April. And that was an insane moment. My dad of 54 years went with me, and this whole world was shaked, seeing that kind of music for the first time really changes you.
yeah. When I got into Swans as a teenager, I never in my life would ever have imagined them to be a festival headliner.
Yeah.
Um, it's strange how the little world of experimental sound has has become like through this festival scene of like I don't know like I know. It was hard. I think one of the reasons I got into noise is I'm agoraphobic and don't like crowds, and I enjoyed going to places where there was only five people. Um, but how that changed over time is I don't think anybody involved in the scene could have ever imagined. I suppose. Like I also saw, I saw Anzen and Neubauten when they first came to Australia in 1990, and they played in a small club. And I saw them more recently, and they played in a large theater. Um, it's just, I'm happy this happened, but at the same time, I, I find it hard to believe that discordant sounds or these kind of bands could have achieved a wider audience the way they have. Not that they're Katy Perry's of the world or anything like that, but it's still much bigger than they were at the time they were producing things like Time Is Money, Bastard in the Swans or whatever.
Yeah, and
Um,
Nick Cave is going on a arena tour,
yeah,
which is incredible.
Nick Cave's a good example, but yeah, like the Bad Seeds cut through a long time ago, and they're more. They still have traditional song structures and lyrics and stuff. So I can understand Nick cutting through, maybe not the birthday party cutting through, but yes, yeah, yeah. Okay, Nick's huge. It's unbelievable, but the guy's turned into quite a jerk.
Yeah, that his politics and just all that's pretty disheartening. But um I think with Swans and with Noise and with Scrams and everything, I have to attribute at least some of that glory to the internet because probably that's how I found swans, whether I wanted to or not. That's that's how I found you. That's how my generation finds these incredible weirdos in the scene is just, through these mini docs and ripped like I almost exclusively listen to ripped audio and Internet Archive, which is like a free thing of just random music, which is I'm almost certain of most of it's like illegal, just pirated music, but I love it and it's free.
Are you on Soulseek?
No, should I be?
You should be on Soulseek. Yeah, it's amazing. The Soulseek's been around forever. The beauty, like some Soulseek's like a LimeWire or whatever, but instead of being internet based, it's its own app. So you have to download the app and then it's peer to peer from there. And it's the best place for, in my mind, to find music. So yeah, check it out, Soulseek. It's an app you download on your computer, then you run it on there. You just type in anything and you can find everything.
That's so
Um,
awesome. I will definitely download that. And then I will have to endorse this app called The Flow, which is created by a friend of mine, Micah Nelson. And their whole idea was like a Spotify that pays artists, but it's almost like an Instagram in that sense where there's like posting and human interaction. So that's another very cool platform that I think is still in the works, but you can check it out and sign up for their newsletter. And artists get paid on that site, which is very cool to see. But we've got
oh,
a
good.
minute. Oh, yeah.
Because everything's on Bandcamp, and Bandcamp don't actually pay for streams, which I find disheartening. Like you can buy the music off Bandcamp, but
Uh,
people listen to your stuff for free there as well. Or you could, I guess you choose it in the settings, but they don't pay for anytime people stream your music there. There's no exchange, and they also take 15% or something. I can't remember, but I've always dreamed of I've even posted about it in the past that I'd like a social network for underground music that isn't about collecting friends, but is about finding and connecting
yeah.
music. Um, like my focus would have been was more on like a grinder for live shows. So you're traveling to a city you've never been to before. You get on your phone,
Yeah.
you hit it, and like it's set to the genres of music you like, and it'll tell you where all the shows are, when they are, where they are, how to get to them.
Well,
Um,
I just want
even
to
if
say that sounds incredible. I don't want to cut you off, but Zoom is a bitch, and the corporate wants me to pay money that I don't have to elongate the videos. So I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Thank you so much for making this happen. It's been an absolute honor to be speaking to you after knowing about you for like a quarter of my life, which is incredible to think about. And so I really